Hey everyone, so for this weekend I wanted to bring you a very fun playlist to the spotlight, hopefully get some more attention and more people into it. It's created by Dr. Matz and called Mountain Pass Master, featuring a combination of togue racing, or sometimes called tarmac rallies, and mountain road lap races. The standard for all of these races is to watch your speed. One reckless turn is all it really takes for you to go sailing off the edge and into last place, or even worse. With that said, let's get started. The first race on this playlist is called Slippery When Wet. It's a relatively short lap race, winding around the road in front of the observatory in Vinewood Hills. Now you're going to see the first of two big things to look out for, which happens here. As you go into the tunnel, there are 2 points on both sides that you can crash into, which costs you precious time. Number 2 is the second to last corner here. It's a tricky uphill turn that you can overshoot extremely easily if you're not careful with your speed, as I pretty much did here. Hold your focus, pass carefully, and hit your turns for a smooth victory. This race gets a 3 out of 5 rating for me, only because after a couple laps it can get pretty predictable, and that makes it kind of boring. The second race is called Merry Way Togg, a point-to-point race that has you avoiding traffic this time along the mountains of Bay Tree Canyon. Now, there is a bug in this map, as of when I last played it, where the traffic will occasionally get stuck around here. This can lead to some pretty bad traffic jams that may force the entire field of racers to come to a crawl as they try to avoid all the drama. Stick to the left of the road for a generally safer passage. As for winning the race, you're going to have to play a little bit of a gamble with the oncoming traffic. To hit the apex on all of these turns means you're going to be running into blind corners very fast. If you're comfortable in your lead, I'd actually suggest you avoid your apex and instead hug the right lane. It gives you more time to pretty much avoid any car you might rear end as opposed to crash head on into. But if you have to make up some time or catch up in the car ahead, then you're pretty much going to have to bet it all on there being no surprise waiting for you at the exit of that turn. you do have a close call, you'll be rewarded for your trouble by a very pissed off commuter. So consider that a job well done. This race really feels like a perfect length, leaving plenty of room to catch up after a mistake, but yet still keeping it interesting, while also still keeping it fair to anyone in the lead. Merry Way, I hope I'm saying that right, Togg gets a clean 3 out of 5 with the issues it has with the traffic, 4 out of 5 once these issues are actually fixed. Definitely a must play. The third race is called Vinewood Toad, another point-to-point across, as you can probably guess, Vinewood. It also touches on the Galileo Observatory route. The race itself is pretty straightforward, following the path up Vinewood to the observatory, then back down. To win, just race clean and keep your lines tight. During the downhill portion of the race, you can actually go flat out with anything other than a supercar up until this first long turn. I had a drift during this race, but that's obviously not advised unless you're into being flashy, which obviously everyone should be. A bit later and you run into this bit of an issue. These steep roads turn into jumps at speed, and if you're not careful, you can have a bit of an incident like I had doing a personal time trial on the course. Yeah, I'll definitely take a busted headlight over that. It gives the race some spice though, so I personally like this finish. Vinewood Toad gets a solid 4 out of 5 from me. Fourth race, the Great Chapman. Honestly, this is the worst of the bunch. It's a lap race touching Vinewood Hills and Great Chapman area, but probably some of the more boring parts of it, at least when it comes to racing. After one lap, you'll probably not get challenged very much at all. The turns downhill through the unpaved roads are the trickiest parts of the race, as you can see. It can be total hell when you're trying to overtake another car. Even in sports cars, you can get laps in under a minute. As you've probably noticed though at this point, I put my poor 9F up on 2 wheels and kicked the back end out way too much to get my lap times anything close to that, during this run at least. It's just a little too short and doesn't have the it factor, so 2.5 out of 5, and I'll let the video play for the rest. Alright, sorry about that. Fell asleep at the start line. Fifth race is back to the point-to-point style, and it's called Galileo Tor, but it actually winds through the Great Chapman and the Zancudo River. Personal note, learn how to say the Great Chaparral. Chaparral? Chaparral, I don't know. Anyway, heading uphill toward the tunnel can be a bit problematic between you and your fellow racers. Try to give yourself some room to hug the hill to the left rather than the cliff to the right for what should seem like obvious reasons. A short, but more importantly fun race, Galileo Tor gets a 4 out of 5 must-play rating from me. Last but certainly not least is my favorite player-created race I've played so far, Vinewood Toad, a point-to-point snaking around Van Ham Canyon and Lago Zancudo, but with a hell of a twist you'll see later on in the video. The first big thing to be mindful of are the small ledges around the farms. These will not save you if you spin out to them or try to wall ride them. Good friend Jigga82 here, watching on as I make a fool of myself. Followed by adding a hint of drama, in quotes, as he put it. There is currently a bug on the map with the checkpoints. Some of them actually tell you to go up and over the mountain, which is obviously a horrible choice to stick to the road, but they can be fixed pretty easily, I suppose, if you put a checkpoint in the middle of the apex of the turn. At the moment, it's not that big of a deal, though, if you have any common sense, so I didn't really take any rating off of it. So, as you keep racing on the edge of the canyon, you'll soon come to this. Jigga crashed immediately, forcing me to slam the brakes, but it is the big twist. Tongva actually spins around back the way it came. The challenge here now is to avoid the other players. Try your best at predicting your opponent's line and just pray they don't decide to be a dick and just swerve into you out of spite. If you can avoid those kind of racers, this is actually an extremely fun concept and everyone should try to play with a party at least once. This is the best race of the playlist in my opinion, getting a must-play rating 5 out of 5.